Alright, people, alright. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa, wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada, wa man bihudahum ihtada, wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa, wa ba'd, fassalamu Allahi ala al-qawm, ahlan wa sahlan bikum wa marhaban,欢迎来自 bienvenidos a todos. Pakhair Raghale Khushamadid, and as always, Swagatam, Swagatam. Alright, so as always, let me check that you guys can actually hear what the hell I'm on about. So, first of all, let me do a sound check as always. Frank the Ant. Abe kya bol raha hai yaar? What's he on about? I'm not flirting. What's going on in these comments? Right, so what's going down? Saleh, you're doing it. Zeba, as always, you're doing it. Inaya, Hussein. Alright, mi gente Azarati. So I take it you can all hear me. Am I speaking Bengali? Balobashi. Kitabe. No, I'm not speaking Bengali. So, my... Wait a minute, is that a reflection of my English? So, let me just take a look as well, as always, with... What is it? Mi gente on Facebook. How are they doing? Alright. There they are. Henna, you're doing it. Fushi, you're doing it. Yasir, Frowdy. Alright, so hope you're feeling better. Uthman says, Shukran, bidu'aikum as-salih. Bidu'aikum as-salih. Okay, so bas aapki duaon se. That's utarjimuhu lakum. So I'm getting by, alhamdulillah, it's good. This is what now, it's only been exactly 3 weeks, and with a residue or residual cough still there, which is becoming weaker day by day. And I have to say today, I actually felt not just, it's been about a week I've felt life back into me, but today I actually felt some strength. I was like, the need. I had to do some push-ups. I was like, had to like bang out about 200 push-ups. Obviously, spaced out. But, I was like, I felt the urge for it. So this was a good sign that, alhamdulillah, life is returning. But no sooner is life returning that Boris, our beloved, where is the let me see, I did put here it is. I try to incorporate some of these.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for coming. It's clear many more families are going to lose loved ones. As I've said throughout, we're looking at the science, and from tomorrow, the number of cases will rise sharply from 2,000 to 465 million, and sadly, in just over 2 weeks, 200 billion people will die in Greater Manchester. In order to cope, those on low incomes who are affected by business closures will receive up to 4% of their wages. That's an increase of 1% since yesterday. I have to say, I profoundly disagree. No one should get any such care. I've got to be clear, we've all got to be clear, this is the worst public health crisis.
This is making about as much sense as Boris could possibly make ever.
From 5 to more than 6 tests a day, and we're making huge progress. We're far better prepared compared to yesterday. Let's go to questions from the public first.
Are people going to die?
On present trends, there is very little hope for the over 60s. While 16 to 29-year-olds, at least 80%.
Prime Minister, can you understand why people watching this might think you're doing far too little to protect their families?
Shut up. I'm so sorry. That was not intentional. Forgive me. I have to be clear. We should give up and let the virus take its course. And I've no doubt that our efforts, which damage hospitals, care homes, schools, will impose significant strains on people's mental health. I'm not going to minimize the problems we've faced. If things seem tough now, just to remember that I'm washing my hands. That's the crucial thing.
Well, people, those of you that don't know, the UK has gone into an absolute lockdown. Once again, a categorical lockdown till mid-February, perhaps till March. Allahu A'lam. So Boris's message, simply put, could have been just put as this. Kahan ka irada hai? Kahan ka irada hai? No, munna, na. Stay home. You must stay home. No, this one, no go out. This is simply put, look. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. That's quite simply put. Those of you that couldn't understand Boris speak, I simplified it for you. Ke kahan ka irada hai? Sanam, kahan? ¿Dónde? ¿Dónde vas? Quédate en tu casa. Okay, so stay at home, people. Stay at home. It is not over, unfortunately. So it's a complete, it's a complete mess. Nobody has any clue what's going on. I would just hope that they would just give everybody the vaccine then, and let's get this over and done with. And let's resume life as normal. But as it so happens, they haven't got enough vaccines. They've got no idea what they're doing with vaccines. They were saying they're going to have tens of millions. In fact, they said by the end of this year, they're going to have 100 million vaccines. I mean, I don't even know what they're going to do with 100 million, since the UK only has 65 million people. But they said that from our generosity, we will then give this to the rest of the world. Mahan hai, mahan hai. But as it so happens, when the end of the year came, they don't even have 100,000, let alone 100 million. And I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's all fun and games, people. It's all fun and games. Right, so there's a super chat by Ammar Kareem. You're doing it. Much love. Mr. Naughty, aap par jaan kurban. Hi. Kya baat hai. I go sleep very late so I can sleep through Dhuhr and join the prayers together when I wake up at Asr time. So I take it what you're saying is because you go to sleep very late, when you wake up, it's often that's the time that you have to combine them. You kind of wake up into Asr time. If that's when you wake up, that's when you wake up. As the Hadith says, فَإِذَا اسْتَيْقَظْتَ فَصَلِّ. When you wake up, then pray. Obviously, you can't sleep pray, so when you wake up, pray. That's what I would say. The deen really should be kept quite real. It should be kept real. I saw some I wanted to actually get the kind of the screenshot. Somebody had made a post saying Malikis back then and Malikis now. You got the Malikis now. So they were taking a dig at me saying, yeah, you're doing it. And they're just taking the mick about me trying to make things easy for people. You see, this is not me. This is the deen. It is easy. Ad-deenu yusr. As the Prophet said, the deen is one of ease. And when asked, what is the best of this deen? He said, aysaruhu. Inna khayra deen aysaruhu. That the best of the deen is the most easiest. The most easiest. The most easiest. He said it 3 times. So there you go, people. These are what I'm teaching you is from the Sunnah. Okay. Somebody mentioned about Dr. Abdul Majid's response to Bukhari Gate. Right, I've watched some of it. I couldn't understand what part of it was the response. however, point पर आते हैं. Nukta, okay, punto. Right, so the point is, mi gente, that I have reached out via an intermediary. We've reached out to Dr. Abdul Majid. I have said that I do invite you, Your Majesty, onto Mindtrap. And let's discuss. Chalo, baat karte hain. What is this refutation? I'm eager to find out as well how I've been refuted. So I have said, hopefully, if all, inshallah, if God willing, this month we'll have that mind trap. I did say give me another week or so, or to kind of fully recover, because there's a residual cough, and I don't want to. I want to be in my element. So hopefully within this month, sabran fi majalil mauti sabran. فما نيل الخلود بمستطاع. He says, patience, people, patience in the in these trembling states of death. For no one before you has ever achieved immortality. That's what the poet says. But anyway, I have offered, and his reply was inshallah. So I take it that's a yes. And so it should be on, people. Dr. Abdul Majid Sahib को मौका भी दिया जाएगा और वक्त भी. देखते हैं. Let's see. Maybe he can answer all my questions and we can be put to ease. Finally, we can close this gate for once and for all. Bukhari Gate is then locked. Or in the Hadith, as the Hadith states, غير عتبة الدار. We need to change the gate. So, people, but so far from what I did watch of his thing, I couldn't understand any part that actually refuted me. I couldn't understand any part. So all I understood was, a lot of it I didn't understand what he was saying. But the parts I did understand is he was just saying that I should be questioned for raising the question. Chalo, ye bhi sahi hai. Then you should be questioned for questioning me for raising the question. This game. So, but hopefully we can have a dialogue about all of this, and I look forward to it. Maza aega, I always want to chat about these kind of things with someone. So let's move on, people. Great Reset and depopulation thoughts. The Great Reset, or, depopulating the globe, I don't think there's a super plot at play where, I don't know, the powers that be in the globe have kind of converged and met forces to do this great reset. I don't think anything like that is happening. However, I do feel that there are, I do accept that there are many people on this globe that may have, when I say many, I don't mean the majority, there are many amongst the majority who may carry these kind of wishes and aspirations that, we wish the world was reset and, there should be a complete disaster. I don't know if you remember the Sacred Games 2 when it came out. So the whole plot in it was this great reset, this Kali Yug. I mean, it's an Indian drama on Netflix, but it was about triggering a nuclear kind of reaction so the whole globe can pretty much be destroyed, and this new generation that are preserved in the bunkers can emerge and repopulate the globe. Now, although that's a fictitious drama, but it wouldn't surprise me that there's certain nutcases out there that have this kind of a dream or a nightmare, may I say. But I don't think anything like this is at play with the governments and things like this. I don't buy into any of those kind of conspiracies. What is Mufti drinking? This prescription, huh? Bin piye kaam chalta nahi. That's the jab bhi chai hai kali ke time. That whenever these dark storms come overhead, bin piye kaam chalta nahi. We can't get by unless we have a little una copa. So, what is going down, people? What is going down? Prince J says, Mufti, please give me a shout out. Chalo, since it's 2021, go on. Not so other people. As a first, chalo yaar, shout out going out. This is to Prince. You people. So, what is going on? Right, the most authentic hadith book. My approach on how to handle hadith is that we take all hadith upon their merits. So it's not that we take a particular book and make it sacrosanct. I do accept that some of the scholars of hadith, some of the muhaddithin had tighter, more rigid rules in compiling their work. I do accept that. Imam Bukhari, who, although is by no means perfect, but his rules to set up his book are more stringent than certain other folks. That is unquestionably true. However, that does not mean that the net product is above all other books of hadith, because even though that may be the case, he had more stringent regulations on the narrators had to have met each other and stuff like this. But the content of what he puts in his book, we don't know what made him choose that content. So he has so many hadith to choose from, and he chooses the content. Now, some of it may be obvious because he believes in it. Some of it may be, I don't know. I mean, but all we do know is he's put it together. And some of it is problematic. We also know that there's a lot of, there's some dubious claims as to what he put together is the same book we have today. And that's the whole content of my Bukhari Gate video. Feel free to watch it. But cool. So I would not advocate a particular book. I would say, if anything, the most classic book we have of hadith is the Muwatta of Imam Malik. But I'm not trying to say that. I suppose I would say the most authentic is then the Muwatta of Imam Malik. But what Malik has taught us in the book is that we reject as well as accept these hadith. So there's hadith in the Muwatta that Malik is rejecting. Rahimahullah. Ghori from Germany says, much love to you too, Gio. He says, Loji, Ghori Aya. So, Dean, you're doing it. Much love for the super chat. There's another super chat there by Ibn Isa. Can we start calling coronavirus the UK virus? It originates from there. It doesn't originate from there, but they're speaking about the mutation. Now, to be fair, you know, there's when you look at works, viruses often mutate all the time, given in many cases, even within a set number of weeks, a virus will mutate. Hence, we don't have things like, we don't have a universal flu jab. It has to keep getting updated because the virus is changing. So the coronavirus is no exception, and it was meant to change, and it has. Although I am somewhat suspicious of what the government has to tell us. You know, I find it difficult to believe that everything the government is saying is true. So I think sometimes they push a particular agenda, like highlighting this new strain, certainly in line with needing to enforce certain lockdown procedures and certain things. Now, one could say, well, that's why they're doing it, but I don't know which one comes first. It's difficult sometimes. I don't know. Although the virus is obviously true, I'm not denying that. Right, so what is going on? Virus are dead, Ibn 19 says. ठीक है यार. أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. You know. They are alive according to Allah, receiving their rizq. So, yeah, somebody said that the virus came from China. It did come from China. And I do believe still that it was the kind of result of laboratory kind of work. I think that the coronavirus came from the Wuhan lab. And although I don't buy into the fact that it was on purpose, but I do think that it was man manipulated. Okay, so the virus is a real virus, but they were working on the coronavirus for many years in the Wuhan. What's going on? Oh, that just froze for a moment there. So I do feel that it came from the lab. But yeah, let's move on to more interesting questions, people. What is going on? What are the Facebook people saying? Let's see. Had people not been stubborn, then this lockdown wasn't necessary. Sure, that is true. COVID-19 has lived now 2 years. I don't know about lived. I suppose it's in circulation, but it's more probably, still under 1.5 year. It emerges in 2019, probably October time. Right. Salam from Kansas. Navid, you're doing it, Nav. You're doing it. Hassan Radwan. Alright, you're doing it. You're doing it. Salam wa alaikum assalam. Riz, likewise. Shukran. People do click like, do click share. So let's deal with some of the thoughts preoccupying the people. Right, let me bring this back up. So, right, what have we got?
Hi guys, I'm just going to leave this one.
Right, okay, so somebody had sent me this video. I thought, okay, let's take a look at this. This is on, the context to it is this mother who makes videos to raise awareness about Down syndrome, and what I was told is whilst she kisses her son, she kisses him on the lips, and people were having an outroar.
Hi guys, I'm just going to leave this one here, I've had a few people leaving comments and sending me messages in my inbox saying that they're offended by me showing affection to my 3-year-old child in my clips. Yeah, a bit silly, isn't it? Some people telling me that it's haram to kiss my child. I'm not going to go into the details of halal and haram here, but if watching my 1-minute clip is affecting your mental health, unfollow and block, because I'm not on here to offend you. I'm on here to raise awareness for Down syndrome and hearing loss, and I'm going to carry on being me, kissing my child and showing affection because that's what he loves, okay?
I have to say that the fact that, something like this is happening just goes to show how defunct and dysfunctional the religion has become for certain people. I don't know who this lady is, but I mean, she's doing a great job. May Allah bless her. May Allah bless her child. May Allah make life easy for anyone who is suffering from certain disabilities. And may Allah bless the lives of those around them that are caring for them. That is the true message of Islam. Now, as to the haram police, who, upon seeing a mother kiss her child on the lips, go into some kind of a frenzy because they're seeing some woman making lip contact with her own child. I think that was the initial thing, and that's what I was told. It just shows the disease that is in the mind of these people, honestly. And the lady said, I won't go into the halal or haram of it, and fair enough, but I will. There is nothing haram, and the only thing, if haram happening here, is the comments and the perverted kind of mentalities that those people have. That is haram. Okay, how dare you insult the motherhood of this lady and of millions out there? What is wrong with certain people? When I watch these kind of things, my blood pressure gets impacted, because I think, what is wrong with these people? Seriously, how can you be so perverted to even think something like that? And you are the virus. You are more of a virus than this global virus. You are such a cancer to this deen. This kind of mentality, these people that over-sexualize everything. Every single thing they can only see through that perverted lens. This is not the deen of Islam, I tell you. And it just disgusts me. But I do hope and pray that this lady and other people like her carry on doing what they're doing. Full steam ahead, full strength. Raise awareness. Don't be deterred in the slightest. Don't be deterred in the slightest by these kind of nutcases. Okay, none of these things are haram. And if you actually read from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you read from the seerah of the companions, there was just general affection being displayed and accepted within society. It wasn't something, we're not talking about people, we're not talking about doing something, like an explicit sexual act in public. We're talking about general intimacy between family members. People used to kiss their children. The Prophet ﷺ would often kiss Hassan and Hussein, radiallahu anhum. Now this is documented in many hadith. Many of the companions would do things like this. The fact I even have to explain this is so stupid. I shouldn't even have to it's an insult to humanity. But yeah, so I wanted to share that. Somebody had sent it to me, and it did rile me up a bit, and I thought, well, I need to speak about it. And you know what I would say is, look, my advice is, with this new year, you can take it as a New Year's resolution. Remove yourself from these circles of toxicity. Do not allow yourself to be bombarded by such negativity. If you are on particular WhatsApp groups, remove yourself. If you are part of these toxic echo chambers, then start making new circles of friends. Or if you've got others, shift over to them. If you're streaming social media and, people are hating on you or doing, you know what? Yeah, if you want to comment. If you want to, if you can take it and you want to give back, then go for it. But if if it frustrates you, just block these people. Believe me, it is so easy. Just block them and move on. Because you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. And these people they'll never be content. It doesn't matter what you do. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he says, it's transmitted as a hadith, that a person comes and he builds a house, and the whole purpose of it, the only thing people say is, if only he'd placed the door over there, he had done such and such. And you get the famous story, and the purpose of this is that mankind, you can never please them. And you get this story of Juha, and the famous, he's an Arab, he's an Arab, he's a comical figure used to kind of for satire. But the story is that Juha and his son are traveling with a donkey. So what happens is, Juha says to his son that, look, why don't you ride the donkey? So they're riding and they pass a bunch of people, and people say, Yar, they say, look at this guy, what a disrespectful son. He's making his dad walk. No shame, yar. Toba, toba. So they go, yeah, you're right, it's embarrassing. So the son gets off, and the dad, Juha, sits on, and he's going. And they pass by another bunch of people, and they say, yeah, look at this guy. Riding on a, strong man, riding on a donkey himself, making his little kid walk. What a dhalim. So they go, you know what? They've got a point as well. Point it, yeah. Point. So they say, let's both of us sit on this donkey. So they pass another bunch of people. And these people say, yeah, look at these idiots. Dhalims, oppressors. 2 people on top of one miskeen donkey. How is this donkey supposed to, supposed to carry the proper oppressors? Have got no compassion. So they look at each other and they say, point, yaar, point. Punto. So they say, you know what, let's get off. So they're both walking and they've got this donkey behind them. So they pass another bunch of people. Those guys go, look at these idiots walking in this weather when they've got a donkey. So, that Rida nas ghayatun lantuna. That, that you'll never make people, or, you can never please everyone. So just focus on yourself, on your own goal. Let 2021 be that year. Okay, so cool. Let's take some of your questions. Some of you have sent in some super chats. Ammar Kareem, you've sent a super chat. Can you explain what does rightly guided caliph mean? Are you saying Muawiyah thought Imam Ali was rightly guided when he went to war against him? Okay, let me come back to that question. I'm gonna circle back to it. Nick Hobbs has said, remove yourself from circles of toxicity. Honestly, and I go a step further to say that unfortunately most religious circles are toxic. You know, if you try and I know this is going to sound controversial, but I would say try and have circles of friends who are just normal people. You know, not just because these religious circles, they're very, very suffocating and claustrophobic and toxic in my perspective. Right, I'm going to come back to that question on the about the Khulafa Rashidun. Right, so Adnan Ashraf, Salam Bhai Sahab. I have a question on two things. One is mortgage. One is doing urine. You know what? Adnan has got his point. You know what? He's got his priorities in life. One is two big problems right now in life. Can I undertake a riba mortgage? Can I urinate standing up? Well, you know, one of these is going to drag me to hell, but which one is it? Can I urinate standing up? Question is, Adnan Bhai Sahab, can you? Is this a talent? Are you trying to brag about it? He's like, hey, look at me. I can do it standing up. I can do it. No hands, one leg. So, right now, sorry. What does Islam say about these topics? Yeah, I missed the most important part. What does Islam say about these topics? So, Islam says, when it is, first of all, on riba, I've got a detailed video. Refer back to it. Check it out. In my video, my understanding is that riba of the Quran is referring to loan sharkery. It is not referring to regular interest that takes place in the banks. Right, so that's not riba in my understanding. So and I've got a detailed video. So the reason I keep referring people to my videos, I'm not going to do justice here. You know, I'm not going to be able to sum up all of those views. As to your other great crisis of 2021, that can you urinate standing up? Well, my answer is yes, you can. I hope you can. Right, so it is fine. I know the Hanafi madhab did have a problem with it, but the other madhabs have been pretty much fine. Imam Malik, when asked about it, he didn't have an issue. He just said, well, just be wary of the kind of splashback, so to speak, but that's it, really. And this hadith that the Prophet ﷺ did also relieve himself in such a manner. And there's no sin, there's no problem. Don't worry about it. Cool? All right, let's move on, people. How can I get in touch with you? Insta. Somebody says... Right, so... Did I just read the word sex? What's going on? I don't even know what. It's like I read what people are writing and I'm thinking, yeah, ¿qué es eso? What's going on here? All right, so Mufti, do you think one would lose good deeds by owning a dog for pleasure? Tova, 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 ये क्या हो रहा है? ससुरा क्या कह रहा है? अच्छा, अच्छा, अच्छा. Owning a dog for pleasure. Yeah, yeah. You need to really work on your wording. This one, legal implications, you know? Right, so you mean, can you own a dog? Does it impact? Do you lose rewards? No, you don't. And it's a good thing you mentioned this question. I was just taking a look the other day. I was going through, it'd been a while. I sat down and I started to go through a lot of these fiqh books. I don't even know what initially caught my attention. Oh, that's it. I was taking a look at the Mukhtasar al-Fiqhi by Ibn Arafah, the first volume. And he had a mas'ala, and then I started kind of cross-referencing it, and I started checking what Mazari, and then Ibn Rushd, and the Mudawwana, and started checking all these different books, Adilla, and Majalis, but it was to do with this topic of purity, impurity, animals, does life necessitate? Because according to the school of Medina, life necessitates purity. And there was a reference which I will share with you guys, actually. By the way, on a side note, I will state that, what's popular about this text? This is Mukhtasar al-Fiqhi by Ibn Arafah, a great Maliki scholar. Now, what's popular is that when he wrote, this is just one volume, it's in many volumes. Now, what's popular about it is that when he wrote it, he apparently presented this to one of his teachers, Abu Abbas al-Qabbab. Now, when Abu Abbas al-Qabbab looked at it, he said to him that, what the hell is this? He said, لا يهتدي إليه المبتدئ ولا يحتاج إليه المنتهي. He said that if somebody who begins, this doesn't make any sense to them, what you've written. And somebody who knows it all anyway doesn't need it. And I have to say, and I know some people have challenged that narration, and it is in some of the books like Timbuktu's and others, but I have to say, I actually kind of agree with it. Having a read of Mukhtasar al-Fiqhi of Ibn Arafah, it is written with such complex wording and manner. The style, it's not so much about the words, it's about the style and how he codifies things. They're so confusing. He has this, this kind of code of how he lists names and I'm telling you, it just does not make any sense. It only makes sense if you know it already, which refers back to the point of Al-Qabbab saying, well, a person who already knows it doesn't need it. But anyway, there was a point here that I had spoken previously. I've got a video about, can you own a pet? And I've said yes. And I've answered previously that the hadith about the dog licking a bowl, and all these hadith about putting down the dogs, or about dogs making you lack in rewards and stuff like this, all of this was to do with a disease like rabies and these kind of illnesses that certain dogs had at the time, and the Prophet was trying to distance the people. Now, this is the Muqaddimat of Ibn Rushd al-Jadd. Now, he does mention here, this is his kind of, the Muqaddimat is a book, this one is in 3 volumes by Dar al-Gharb, and it's basically a summary. It's meant to be his interpretative summary of the Mudawwana, Whether that stands true or not is subject to debate, but that's what it is. Ibn Rushd al-Jad, the granddaddy. Now, his personality is not something I normally gel with from all the scholars, but he's a bit more of the kind of strict type. But here is the reference. Now, somebody had asked me that, where do you get this from? And I had read it, and I was trying to recall the reference previously, and I think I did show a particular reference from Mazari, but here is one from Ibn Rushd, where he has, it comes in his, in this particular, it's on page 90 of volume 1, and it's under the section of to do with water. And he mentions قلت والذي أقول به في معنى أمر النبي بغسل الإناء سبعا من غلوغ الكلب. He says, what I say about this matter, about why you have to clean the bowl 7 times, says والله أعلم وأحكم أنه أمر ندب وإرشاد. And he mentions that this is, this is not something religious like a halal haram issue. This is a recommendation. But why? And he's going to go on to explain because of hygiene. He says, مخافة أن يكون الكلب كلبا يدخل على آكل سؤره ومستعمل الإناء قبل غسله منه ضرر في جسمه. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ينهى عما يضر بالناس في دينهم ودنياهم. So this is a quote here. He says that the dog is kalib. So you have da'ul kalib, which is a disease. And the point is that because those dogs were diseased and what the harm they could have caused, this is why the Prophet ﷺ was distancing people from them. And then there is a debate. He does also discuss it. Ibn Rushd, Mazari discusses it as well in his Sharh of the Talqeen, that is it possible that the Prophet commanded something and the companions weren't immediately implementing it? So, but the point here is that because of the affection, the affinity that some people had with dogs, they weren't fully abiding. So maybe they had stopped in some things, but the dogs were still at home. They were still doing things. So the Prophet then said, oh, well, anybody who has a dog at home, they lose this much reward. Or anybody who has a dog at home, if the dog licks your bowl, this. The reward element, or an angel will not even enter. The religious rhetoric is just to create a distance in their hearts so they can remove these dogs from their homes because of the disease that these dogs carried. Okay, so I hope that now helps. Mehrab Raza, you're doing it. Much love for the super chat. You mentioned Bukhari a little. Just lost his super chat. There it is. A while ago in a previous video, you cited a hadith of the Prophet entering the home of a woman who refused his advance. But does the fact that the hadith is in the book of Talaq mean she was his wife? Now, Mehrab, that's a good question. Now, I do mention that in my Bukhari Gate video that there is a lot of confusion. So that chapter has 3 hadith in it. So one of them is the Prophet saying, give yourself to me. And she insults the Prophet by saying, does a queen give herself to, like, basically she uses a word like the lowlife of society. She says, does a queen do that? Like, should I give myself to you? So the scholars say, well, this was, by give yourself to me, this was a proposal. So the Prophet was proposing marriage. They argue, those who support this hadith. Then they get stuck because the next hadith demonstrates an advance, that the Prophet tries to touch her. So they then say, well, some of them say, well, oh, this is a different woman. Ibn Hajar and his games as well. Ibn Hajar is nutty at times. He's the, what it is. Look, it's not that I rate these scholars and I love them, but you have to understand the power structures at play. These people are too they're heavily invested in this field. They can't bulldoze it down. Everything, see, they are part of that structure. It's like this, like, you see, if you go to a doctor, now a doctor is institutionalized. He's part of this institution of, pharmacology, pharmaceuticals, the whole industry. It ties into his education. That's how he's been taught. That's how he understands things. That, look, if this happens, then we do this. If this, and there's science behind it, but they won't think differently. Like, a doctor will not, for example, a doctor won't start saying things like, this is happening. How about if we look at certain amino acids? Amino acids now play a huge role in the functioning of your body. And in fact, on certain occasions, certain seizures and certain things can actually be as a result of a deficit of certain amino acids. Now, you have essential amino acids, and you have others. But doctors generally won't think like that. They will resort to the kind of manual and the procedures and the protocol that they've been institutionalized into. They're not going to just start thinking out of the box, because that many years of an institutionalization does that to you. Even if even when I've in the past spoken to some doctor friends, they don't think like that. They don't think like, oh, well, could certain other things, could certain other vitamins, or can you take other procedures into practice? It's not their way of thinking. Even when dealing with injuries, it's interesting how bodybuilders, for example, a lot of them have many techniques on how to rehabilitate from, there's certain steroids or things that they will use that will rebuild injury. A growth hormone, for example, and the result it will have on recovering from injury. Now, a doctor would never prescribe something like that for recovering from an injury, because it's not that they don't know what growth hormone is, but that's not their procedural method that they've been taught. They've not been taught to think like that. So they will say, no, well, I don't, we haven't been taught to administer growth hormone in these injuries or things like this. We've been told to do such and such and such and such. So muhaddithin, these scholars of Islam in the past, were no different. Those who were invested in a particular field were institutionalized by that field. They don't critique it the same way as somebody that's looking at it from outside of the box does. So occasionally there were some scholars that did critique things they thought out of the box, but the majority of them were part of the institutions. I hope that makes sense. All right, so somebody said it has terrible side effects. I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're talking about GH, I would say you clearly don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, but this is not, I'm not promoting such things. I'm just giving an example of how people who have actual injuries recover so rapidly when they sometimes use treatments that are out of the box. Because that's an area where people just focus on these kind of injuries. And the medical profession doesn't work in that way because it's not catered to those specific injuries. It's a generic institutionalized field. Anyway, moving on. How to stop the spreading of Salafi ideas that dominate the public opinion on Islam, Hadith, extremism, everything, rightly guided, blah, blah, blah. Right, now I did have something here. Let me just see.
There is terrorism in Islam.
This was a video clip that was shared.
This is not the real Islam. This is the Islam of Abu Bakr and Umar. That is the Islam. It's not this. بار أبو بكر لعنات بار عمر لعنات بار عائشة لعنات. That is how people are going to find out what the true Islam is. When we express the disassociation from the oppressors, those who establish terrorism, we are telling the people that there is a different Islam.
Right, so this was a clip that I came across. It was, I came across it initially on Instagram. There's a person who has the, his art is Psycho Omar. He's Sunni, but he had this clip highlighting it, and he was bringing attention to it, saying that, look, this is, and there was a set of clips. This was just one of them, but it was the same individual who has the handle is the Bruce or something. I think that's this Shia cleric's handle. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is even though the questioner asked the question about Salafis. Now, this is my point, because I'm trying to bring it together. People, we have to stop this preaching of hatred. Any person who preaches hatred is truly an enemy of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if they don't know it. They may think they are actually, doing God's work, but they're not. This was an example of Shia extremism. He, in his clips, he's trying to say that terrorism is basically Sunni Islam. And the first terrorists were Abu Bakr and Umar, radiyallahu anhum. And then he goes on to say, Bar Abu Bakr la'nat, which is saying in Persian that curse be upon them, and curse be upon Aisha radiyallahu anha, and curse be upon Umar, and so on. Look, listen, I don't know, I don't know much about this particular person. Is the Bruce his handle, the Shia cleric? But I can say that this person is a clear cancer in the heart of this ummah, okay? Any person, now this is an example of one extreme, that you will get it within all kinds of groups, and it needs to be denounced or cut off. This particularly is a Shia problem. Obviously, Sunnis don't accept the Shia narrative anyway, but within the Shia, this is a huge barrier to the bridges that are being built. Now, in my understanding, many Shia would denounce these kind of nutcases. But these videos circulating are a problem. I mean, I saw this like I said, I saw it on a particular site, but then I saw it on several WhatsApps, and other people sent it to me as well. So, I mean, my advice would be that, inshallah, this part, especially to the Shia folks, to kind of denounce this kind of nonsense in the public, and to, inshallah, we can move forward building bridges. Okay. Now, the same thing with Salafis. That's your Shia kind of extremes. Then you have Salafi nutcases who go around calling everybody, bid'ati, or this mubtadi' or mushrik, or this. This person is dal, mudil. This person is, he's lost the path, and this person is whatever. And they are equally a problem. So, and that is a cancer that we unfortunately have within, and I say we because the Salafis are still, part of that Sunni kind of audience. That's what they are. And they're a very vociferous, very loud part of it as well. So we do need to correct it. How can we correct it? Look, I would say by trying to learn more about the deen, trying to spread more of the right narrative. And inshallah, I do feel that in this day and age, the Salafi da'wah is, I do feel it is somewhat dying a death. It does have an appeal still to it. It had a golden appeal, especially in the 90s and in the 2000s, but a lot of that is now losing ground to the voice of reason. Because people, the younger generation especially, they want things, and rightfully so, they want them to make sense according to the voice of reason. And come on, I mean, the salafis, you're not going to really, it's like, you're not going to really find much of the voice of reason there, are you? So, in fact, on that note, I do have, speaking of interesting salafis.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
No.
To be honest, this is animalistic. This is what a pig is like. It's how a pig moves. And the pig is the only animal that will basically watch another male pig come and basically have intercourse with his pig woman. And he'll watch it and enjoy it. Sometimes might get involved.
A pig woman.
It's real talk. It's real talk. It's real woman. Yeah, it's real talk. The point I'm saying, the kuffar eat, and the kuffar are like that. Like, wallahi, man, the kuffar are okay. Like, I'm saying, I got a neighbor, yeah? My neighbor, he stands there, like, his wife tried to chat to man. She put her hand out. It's like, hi, my name is so-and-so. And I'm like, bruv, like obviously I told her, no, like, in a nice way, I said, sorry, I said, we don't shake hands with women in our religion. But the point is that man standing there letting his wife shake hands with me. Like, I'm saying, they're okay. Like, you see how these kuffar, they come and their wives, they kiss you in the face. Like, and the kafir will stay. He'll go and kiss the other guy's wife. No, wallah, that's what they do. Like. And the next thing you know, and you know what it's called?
I mean, seriously, this is the level of, first of all, there's a great kind of zoological scientific discovery about the lifestyle of the pig. Somehow the exclusive features of a pig are that the pig is the only creature that lets next man pig come and have intercourse with his pig woman. Even the scientists, everybody, they're trying to, figure that one out. They're going like, this is what he's doing to science. So first of all, that's the first amazing scientific breakthrough of this century, that the pig is the only one that allows its pig woman to have intercourse with next man pig. Nika, do you know that? Next man pig come in here, next man pig. And then, because the kuffar, they eat pig, they have now inculcated these qualities. So, and what was that, by the way, the example? The example was that his neighbor, the wife, who's also his neighbor, took her hand out to shake his hand. So that was the equivalent as her taking off her pants and saying, Aja mere balma, tera intizar hai. That's the equivalent. I mean, there's like no, there's no difference between that. Her putting her hand out to shake hands, and between, according to his version, next man coming and having intercourse in front of him is exactly the same. I mean, there's like, same to same. This one, same to same. Same. Shake hand, intercourse, same to same. Honestly, I don't get. Wow, just wow. Honestly, I don't understand, but yet a lot of people will follow. The wisdom, the wise words of our Dawa man, and he still has a very large following. And this is the the kind of gems that that he's giving out there. That people stop when you shake hands. Don't you know that this in between the tickling. I don't know how they shake hands. What do they do when they shake hands? You're naughty. So, yeah, we're gonna have to shake his neighbor's hand to see. Yeah, hota kya hai? What go on? You know. So, people, this is the kind of geniusness that we are gifted with. So let us, inshallah, just kind of deal with all these gems. So let's see what else is going on. And I do have a video, by the way, explaining that shaking hands is not haram. And in fact, contrary to wise old Dawah man's knowledge, there's examples from the Salaf that they used to shake hands. In fact, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh is transmitted would shake hands with certain women. And I've explained that there isn't a single sahih narration that prohibits shaking hands. So you can feel free to watch my clip on that. It is on YouTube. Mufti, how many wives do you have? Abbe yaar, ginti, I know how to count, you know. I need one of those abacus things to keep. You know, one must renew their vitamins. You know, speaking of Dawah man, there was a, I don't know if you guys remember his revelation a while back. I did share it where he said that the key to evil, people, no, it's not what you're thinking, shaitan or kufr or paganism, but the key to evil was, as he clarified in his previous video, was the woman on top of the man in a sexual position. You know, this one. So now, what is interesting is about that, and I wonder if Dawah man even knows about that, or if he gains some of his inspiration from this. But there are certain biblical myths. Okay, so there's a mythology that surrounds certain the biblical narratives. Now, I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with the myth of Lilith. Right, so was Dawah man onto something is the question. So those of you that don't know, chalo yaar, main hu na, let me explain to you. The myth or the legend of Lilith. Abbe yaar, ye sasuri, ab ye sasura kaun hai? Lilith. Lilith is not a he, it is a she. So those of you that don't know, the Bible, Genesis, book one, has two counts of God creating Adam. So in one account, Adam and Eve are created simultaneously. And then in the next chapter, Adam is created first, and then he's kind of put to sleep, and God removes a rib and creates Eve, the famous story that everybody is probably familiar with. So biblical scholars in the past, especially Jewish scholars, they tried to work their brain as well on, yaar, ye Kaise so? Yeah. Why? What is it? Wrong number, right door, number next door. What is this one? What meaning? So they try to figure out, what is this? Is this... So one interpretation was actually the first woman was not Eve. No. The first woman was Lilith. Those of you that don't know about Lilith, Lilith used to be with Adam in the Garden of Eden, but she was an equal because she was created with Adam. So she wanted equality in everything. She felt, Abe, hum kisi se kam hain ka? Are we less than anyone? She was like, we're equals. So this was a problem. But one of the things that she wanted dominance in, you guessed it, you nutty. She wanted to be on top in the sexual. You know, what? Toba. Did she not know what Ibn al-Qayyim said? That this may lead to homosexuality. So Lilith wanted to be on top during the interactive dynamism. So Adam didn't want that. After all, man. He's like, man, no, be dominated, man, dominate. So Adam, according to this story, didn't accept that. He was like, no, only one person on top. So they got into a dispute. So what happened is one day, Lilith said, I've had enough. I'm not getting equality. I'm not getting my dominance. So she took the Lord's name. Ooh, you're not allowed to take the Lord's name in Judaism. She took the Lord's name and then disappeared into the skies. And then some angels were sent to catch her, but the angels couldn't catch her. And she still haunts men at night. She comes as succubus. I'm not making this stuff up. Succubus is the spirit that comes at night, and that is Lilith. So, and according to certain riwayat, she continues to give birth to demons, and according to some, she comes and kills infants, and she will continue to haunt till the Day of Judgment. So this Lilith story, it's interesting. I wonder where Dawa Man got his inspiration. Was it from the succubus story? You naughty, you succubus. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you guys. It's interesting. It's interesting, huh? So according to that, before Eve, there was Lilith. Okay. So, right, let's deal with somebody said Lilith is responsible for sleep paralysis. Hell yeah, and a lot more as well. So right, let's move on, people. Some of your questions, what's going on? Let's take a look at what some questions on Facebook as well. All right, what's going on? Scholars pushing an agenda. I'm not sure. Right, so Ayub, is this in the Bible? Somebody asked, is the Lilith story in the Bible? So Lilith is, although Lilith is mentioned in the book of Isaiah as a vague mentioning, this is more by the commentaries upon the Bible by old Jewish scholars. So when they try to explain the discrepancy between the first event and the second event of Adam's creation, they described that this is how they reconciled it. They said that both were factual. So first God created Adam and Lilith, And then obviously Lilith went away, and then he created Eve after Adam felt lonely. So the exact story of Lilith is more mentioned in the kind of mythology surrounding Genesis. It's not in the Bible. Her name does appear in the book of Isaiah, and there it's a vague reference to as some kind of an evil spirit or something. Cool. I hope that answers that. Adam is shocketh by Lilith. Right, so what's going on? Right, what's going on, people? Who is Abu Hassan? I don't know who Abu Hassan is. Muhammad Nasir says, can you answer my question? I don't know what the question is. Right, so... Right, okay, I can't see many questions here. Any ladies out there? Nick says, any ladies out there like Lilith for us single brothers that will take us? So I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. So cool. Let's take a look at some of the questions. Did I have... Right, I was asked a question about miracles. I did a meetup. Now, those of you that may have seen it, I did a meetup just on New Year's Day, just as it kind of early in the morning. Now, during that, I had a bit of a discussion on miracles. And I was asked about this, so I was asked if I could maybe shed a few more, a bit more light on the topic. And so, what did I mean? Because, is it Ahmed Shuaib? Shuaib Ahmed. Young man who came on, very intelligent. And he's a keen follower. I interact with him on several of these on social media and on several meetups. But he asked the question that, look, you say that miracles aren't real. Why do you say this? And so I just wanted to clarify, look, as I mentioned on there as well, it's not that I don't say there's no such thing as miracles. But what I mean by miracles may differ to what you mean by miracles. To me, miracles are things like life is a miracle, happiness, these things that, the wonder that fills this world is a miracle. Vision is a miracle. Comprehension, consciousness is a miracle. Our relations are miraculous in many ways. And so are the happenings that take place in each of our lives that upon occasion are no short of an actual miracle. So how sometimes we get saved from certain calamities, how sometimes help comes out of nowhere, how, risk comes to us unexpectedly. All of these things are miracles according to everybody they should be. And according to me, these things are miracles and they do happen. So when we say miracles, we disagree maybe upon what the definition is of these things. As to supernatural events, things like the dead coming back to life, stuff like this. Now, I have explained that God does not break his laws of nature because they are his laws. Why would he tell us to go and learn from nature if nature was unreliable? Allah says, فَانْظُرُوا فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا. Look, do they not أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ? Do they not look at this? Do they not look at the sama? Do they not look at the earth? Do they not look at how plants rise up? Do they not look at these things? The only way you can learn is if there is consistency, which there is. So Now that's just answering that topic, okay? The next point is, what do the scholars in the books of theology mean when they say miracles? Now, yes, in the books of Aqidah, scholars have this thing called mu'jizat. Allah does not mention these in the Quran as mu'jizat. Allah speaks of ayat in the Quran, but they will call them in the terminology that mu'jizat or mu'jiza singular. They say that a mu'jiza is a miracle, and it is a supernatural miracle that defies all known knowledge by man and breaks the laws of nature. So something like let's say pouring fountains of water from the fingertips. Now that never happens. So to do something like that. Now that has no explanation whatever. Nobody can just explain that. So they will say, okay, now these things are miracle, or a rock splits open and a camel jumps out of it. This camel then is a pregnant she-camel that gives birth to another camel. This story is not mentioned in the Quran like that anywhere. These are made-up stories transmitted by Abu Tufail. But the point is that here you have, and I have a video on that, on Salih's camel, alayhi salam, but these are popular myths. So people want to believe these stories. Why do they believe them? Part of why these stories spread like wildfire is because when you make something so spicy, it spreads. And people, they've kind of over the ages, they've kind of spiced up the stories. And that's nothing new. People do that to make these stories interesting. It doesn't mean that these stories necessarily were actually true, but that's why they spread. Because obviously, a story, the more excitement you put in it, the farther it's going to reach. So the same thing with prophetic stories. Now the next point is, what do these theologians say is the objective of these miracles? So they say each prophet was sent with these supernatural laws, and what the purpose, they mention the purpose was to prove to everyone that God is powerful, and it is a sign for them to then believe. But then, you see, the problem with this, there's a number of problems. One is, none of these people seem to ever believe in it. So these miracles seem to fail their purpose. So either God didn't know that, or he does it on purpose, knowing that even though I do it, they still won't believe. And if that be the case, the kuffar of Quraysh in the Quran begged the Prophet for these very same signs. That, Fajr, make a river come out to us, make food come down from the sky, make a book come down from the sky, show us something. Like they begged the Prophet. It's in the Quran, so many verses, saying, bring these springs forth. We're in a desert. Bring a spring of water for us. We will believe in you. And the Prophet says, innama ana bashar. I'm a human being. How can I do these things? So here you've got a people begging for him, but God does not do it. Why? Because he says, well, duh, you're a human. You can't do things like that. There you're saying in previous generations, people are saying, we don't care, and God is giving sign upon sign. Supernatural signs, which, by the way, if normal people saw them, they would believe. But God only shows them to people who disbelieve. I mean, it just does not make any sense. Like, what is the purpose of these things? So that has been my point. Now, then we got to a final point where I did ask the brother, I said, so what is the miracle of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And he said the Quran. Now, this put me in a very uncomfortable position. Why? Because now I have to and I don't want to talk down the qualities. I don't want to show that side of the Quran, but you're putting me in that position. And this was so what we went on to say was, I said, well, how would you say the Quran is a miracle? And he said, well, because of its Arabic. And I said, well, but do you understand that Arabic? He said, no. So I said, so how do you know? He said, well, other people. So I said, well, you see, most people do not speak Arabic, and then most of those who do speak Arabic still can't fathom the miraculousness of the Arabic. Like, they can understand it's an amazing Arabic, but they can't explain what the miracle is. So how could a miracle be something that most of humanity just won't be able to fathom? So that was my kind of point. Now, I just wanted to clarify on the discomfort part. Now, the reason being, look, imagine somebody comes to you and says that the Prophet is God, that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is God. Now, we don't believe that the Prophet is God. So he says, no, I believe it. The Prophet is God. Now, you see, part of your rebuttal will naturally mean that you will start to argue your point, you're going to show several points of the Prophet's humanness, his humanity, which is his weaknesses. Like, you're going to say, well, that doesn't make sense because, why would a God need to eat food? The Prophet would get weak. The Prophet fell ill. The Prophet, he died. The Prophet, all these things. Like, you're going to start showing, you see, to refute the argument, you're going to mention things which in some way, unfortunately, are showing the Prophet in a weak light. But that's what the argument, the position, is forcing you to do, because you're trying to show, well, he can't be God, because can a God be somebody who dies? Can a God be somebody who this happens to? Can a God... But you're doing it because the person is saying, well, look, the Prophet is God. So similarly, I was uncomfortable in trying to, look, I don't want to downplay any attributes of the Quran. I don't want to do that because I'm a Muslim. Obviously, the Quran has a very special position, a special place in my heart and in the hearts of all Muslims. But when you're going to use an argument like, say, look, I even agreed. I said, look, the Quran is miraculous in the emotions and the experiences it creates subjectively. But you can't say this is a universal. You can't say, well, look, anybody who hears the Quran will become Muslim, because the truth is they won't. And, many of the Meccan Arabs didn't become, and they understood it best. They had a better understanding of Arabic than anybody on the globe today. So now, you see, when you have to highlight these things, it's like somebody else came on and he said, yeah, well, what about the i'rab of the kind of the grammatical, the harakat, the what they call tashkil in Urdu, but which is called the harakat or the i'rab, the voweling of the thing. And I mentioned that, look, but there were certain grammarians who problematized it. I mentioned Mazini, and there were others as well. It wasn't just Mazini. There were many of the Basriin were kind of very ruthless against some of the qira'at of the Quran, because they said that the people were Ajam, they were non-Arabs, and the Arabic was weak. So the reason I am giving this clarification of discomfort is because some people ask me that, oh, were you being abrupt and you kind of killed that conversation with that brother? Was this because you were feeling, why? And this is why, because I don't like to be in a position where I have to speak like that about the Quran. But my point was, you're making an unacceptable claim. Your claim is that this is a universal miracle. Whoever hears it becomes Muslim. That's not true. Like, as much as I would wish it was true, it's not. So let's just be real. We don't need to be insecure, and we don't need to lie on behalf of Islam. So that was my point, okay? And that's why I kind of quashed that conversation, because I was like, this is making me feel uncomfortable. It was not because some people said, oh, were you scared of his argument? Obviously, I'm not. I'm more than happy to entertain any argument. But it was just, it's making me feel not too well discussing it. Okay, so cool. Let's move on. So somebody may ask, look, what is then the point of miracles? And I've said, look, where do you get this from that we need miracles? Where do you get this from that we need a miracle to believe? Is not life a miracle enough? Is not consciousness a miracle enough? Do you not experience the hand of God touching your lives a miracle enough? Why? Where do you get this that I will only believe in God when I have a miracle? Well, that belief is for the weak. It's not real iman. This is what faith is. It's believing. Okay, so cool. I hope that makes sense. You're doing it. Mijrada said, Ahsant Mufti. Some people said to some it isn't. I get that. To some it isn't. And look, in your personal lives, whatever you want to believe is up to you. Okay, if you want to believe that certain miracles happen, that's fine. If you want to believe like supernatural miracles happen, that's fine. If you want to believe that rocks cracked open and animals jumped out and all of these things, fine. The only problem is when you start presenting this to non-Muslims as a universal claim, and then they come back and destroy it. And by destroying it, they then make Islam look silly. So as a personal private belief, you can believe it. I have no problem with whatever you believe. You can believe in, in supernatural laws and anything. I mean, person can believe in goblins and whatever. To me, even if you as a Muslim believe in all these supernatural stories, it doesn't bother me. I'm not going to try to refute you. I'm not going to try to say to you, you need to stop believing in them. Obviously, I mean, I will say that I don't believe they're correct, but I'm not going to try to force you or strong arm you. My only problem is when you preach them as standard Islam and then they get destroyed, and as a consequence, Islam gets damaged. That's my problem. Cool. And I think one of the serious problems with this topic as well is because people feel, then why are these miracles not happening today? Why are they not happening? Because there's an element of God has changed, you see. So these are deeper philosophical questions. Cool. Let's move on to some of the questions that you guys are asking. Are Hamza, Tzortzis, and Firas Dhahabi friends of yours? Mindtrap. What about Nouman Ali Khan? Mufti Abu Safura says, it's my birthday. Well, happy birthday to you, Abu Safura. Many happy returns, right? And may Allah bless this year for you and for all of us. Ameen. Right, so as to the Mindtrap, yeah, I would love for these people to come onto Mindtrap. They, some people have accepted. Now I've got to resume. I'm feeling a lot better now. I was told that, look, with the COVID, 2 weeks is the solid, and then I was told it may take another 1 to 2 weeks after that for you to fully get back to normal. I was mentioning today, it's the 3rd week today, and I was feeling some strength had come back to me. I was like, like doing some push-ups, and I had the need to do that. And I remember a couple of days ago, I remember trying some push-ups, and it was like, I just, it's like, my shoulder would hurt, or this would hurt, and I couldn't. So I'm just feeling the strength coming back. Hopefully within another week, I should be good as was, and I will start resuming the mind traps as well. There's a couple of people who have said to me they're happy to come on. Let's get them on and let's get discussing. Amongst them, I've also been told that Dr. Shadi Nasar is happy to come on Mindtrap, so that would be an interesting conversation. He's a professor at Harvard, and he has his book on the variant recitations of the Quran. and I know he's being highly quoted, so it'd be very interesting getting him on. So I look forward to that. Right, super chat, you're doing it, Ismail Akram, much love. Ghazali beat the reason-based philosophers on this. I'm not sure what he beat them on. The reason these throughout the ages. Mufti should get Parvez Hoodboy. If you are in touch with him, do reach out to him and then reach out to me. I'd love to get him on. Right now, how can you say, I don't know what that question means. The Muawiyah question. All right, somebody said, Mufti, soon it's your birthday. It is. Life goes on. Yeah. Wow. What's life moves on. I have to say, it's been an interesting year. My thoughts on this year are that, anything in life, don't look at it negatively and try to always see the silver lining. Yeah, it's been good. It's been interesting, different, upside down, but still good. Oh, why not, huh? You're on a roller coaster, you're all over the place, you're scared, absolutely, you're frightened too. But by the end of it, you're like, wow, what a thrill. And I would like to, as a New Year's thing, suggest that as well. And I mentioned it on my meetup that, look, try to have a positive outlook on life. And sometimes it is hard, I get that. But try. And try sometimes with words. Okay? So when people ask you, never say, people will ask you, how are you? The amount of people you speak to, sometimes you ask them, oh, how's things? Or how you doing? And they'll say things like, not bad. The amount of people that say stuff like that, not bad. Wait a minute, why are you even mentioning negative words? Never, stop that. Don't ever respond with not bad. Respond that I'm good. Lillahi alhamd. Great. Things are chilling. Respond positively. See if that starts to bring a change. That's one thing. 2, and this is as common sense as it is, and it's in the Hadith, just try to smile. Just try to smile. You see, there's an indistinguishable relationship between being happy and smiling that the mind sometimes can't fathom. As in, it can fathom, but it confuses. So if you smile, the mind automatically assumes you're happy, and as a consequence can make you happy sometimes. So just try that, and it's in the Hadith. What is it that, not in the Hadith, but as the poet says, that Tazad jazbat mein agar ye maqam, Tazad jazbat is the conflict, the clash of jazbat, of emotions. मैं ये मकाम अगर आया तो क्या करोगे? मैं रो रहा हूं तो हंस रहे हो, मैं मुस्कुराया तो क्या करो? That's the poet saying that, if such a platform of conflicting emotions arises, then what will you do? That I am upset, so it's making you happy. What if I smile? मैं मुस्कुराया तो क्या करोगे? What will you do? So try to, that's my second point, that, if I can advise you for the new year, that just try, it's a very simple one. The first, just try responding with positive words. If you are a person that uses negative words, remove them. Stop using them. Stop saying things like, could be better, it's not the end of the world, it's not bad. replace them with positive words. Things are good. Lillahi alhamd. So much to be grateful for. Start using positive words and start smiling whenever you can. It may be difficult. And and what I'd mentioned before, start removing yourself from circles of toxicity and think less about what people care. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Yaar, kutte to bhonkte hi rahenge. People will, doesn't matter what you do or say, will always switch it off. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Go back to what you were doing. And as a fourth tip, I would say that try one thing we can learn from this year is the amount of people who've been innovative, who've tried to, from scratch, because maybe businesses have collapsed or they've been stuck at home or they've, at first there's the frustration, but then creativity. That ad-darura ummul ijad. Necessity is the mother of invention. And people have then started, people have started their own businesses, started online things, they've started learning, start learning something, honestly. Trust me when I tell you that even if you don't like it today, a year from today, you will look back and wish that you began it today. If sometimes it might be a little investment, invest in something. I remember last year, this point, I told so many of my friends to buy crypto. You know that? It was about exactly this time last year. It was early, just about into the new year, and I messaged a bunch of friends. I said, buy Bitcoin. And it was about £5,000. And I bought some as well. And I think it was priced at 5,300 when I bought it. And I sent it to so many friends. I said, trust me, just do this. And at the time, I would have got a kickback as well if they did buy it. Needless to say, these lazy good-for-nothings did not buy it. So I didn't get no kickback, but I would have if they, you'd get 5% or something if certain people bought it. But I sent it to so many people, said, look, listen, buy, trust me. The way it's halving, it has to, blah, 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 blah. And it's ridiculous. See its price now? It's ridiculously, what is it, 20-something thousand pounds? I think it was £25,000 or something, or 20-something. It's, wow. So sometimes it might be an investment. Sometimes it doesn't have to be that. It could be a skill, learning something. It could be whatever. Just if you're going to do it, just do it. Okay? Don't think too much about it. That's what I would say. And, if you hate doing it, there's a little trick that you can do with your mind. And that's when you got to do something, don't think I've got to. Think, oh, yes, I get to. I get to do 20 minutes of reading today. That's what you say to yourself. I get to do it. Not I got to do it. I get to do it. I get to clean up. I know it doesn't sound exciting, but I get to. And even everything, see the silver lining in things. Honestly, even something, I said cleaning as an example, even something like cleaning can be so therapeutic. It can. Whenever I do vacuum, I find this is going to sound probably so crazy to people, but I find it so therapeutic. I don't know why, but maybe it's the clean effect afterwards, and I can always work better in a more refreshed environment. But cool, that's some advice. Let's move on to some of your questions. There was the question about, I was asked about the Khulafa al-Rashidun. Right. Somebody said thoughts on Bitcoin. Yeah, I think it's obviously now the price is rocketing. So obviously buying it right now, I don't know how much higher it's going to go, but yeah, but it was a gem. You know what? I should have said it on the Monday nights last year. I don't know if I did, but I definitely said it to my friends on WhatsApp. Mufti is an actor. Are there any scenes to perform that would be haram? Mufti as an actor. I was about to say, Mufti is an actor. As an actor, would there be any scenes to perform that would be haram? Would there be any scenes, people? This is, where you turn up, it's the fatwa, and you're like,
फंसा दिया ना तुमने मुझे तूने बहका दिया ना तेरे कहने में मैं आ गया इस वक्त बड़ी मुसीबत की घड़ी है अपनी आप
so are there any scenes? I don't know. Could there be any scenes? I'm sure I could think of one or two. behave. Right, so this question, Mufti, is there a real basis to not celebrating one's birthday? It is absolutely fine to celebrate your birthday if you want to. I haven't really celebrated. I suppose it depends what you mean by celebrate, as in. But I haven't really celebrated my birthday in a good while, actually. I don't think I have. I mean, I get, the family kind of stuff and gifts and stuff like that, but as in properly celebrate like I did as a kid. It was the highlights. It was the only time of the year. All right, so there's nothing haram about these things. These are, worldly things. There's no religion attached to it. Okay. It's not a religious issue. If you want to celebrate it, celebrate it. If you don't want to celebrate it, don't celebrate it. It's no... I think there's nothing wrong in celebrating it. I think... but it's entirely your choice. I think it's fun for children. And you can use it as a kind of... I suppose mine occurs in January anyway, so it's kind of like at the beginning of the year. But you can use it as a landmark to kind of maybe see what have you done. And I think sometimes, you go through life as well, and these birthdays, sometimes they can be daunting as well, because you can kind of think, oh my God, now I'm almost this many years old. Now I'm almost 30. Now I'm almost 40. Now I'm almost 50. It's like, and I think what's interesting is to have friends who are of different age groups, because it really helps. I think a couple of years ago, if I'm going to be honest, I think a couple of years ago, I was with a very good friend of mine, Sheikh al-Qawm, and and who's older than me. And I started, we started talking, and I gotta say, I felt, I was expressed to him this kind of unease, this kind of anxiety that you have. And this was a couple of years ago. And I think I had it then before I was approaching 40. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell, life and this and what's going on and what about the, and you have, and it's normal, it's natural. This happens, you see. And sometimes it's difficult if you're all the same age, because you're just going through it simultaneously, or maybe people are 1 year younger than you or just 1 year older than you. But if somebody is a good bunch of years older than you, it can really be calming and soothing and reassuring and kind of really helpful taking their input. And I remember we were kind of traveling at the time, and I remember I call him Sheikh al-Qawm. If he's watching T, Dio, Meri Jan. And I remember him kind of telling me, giving me certain words of advice and explaining certain things of life and how it's not, it's just look and just explain. And sometimes it's common sense, but you're just hearing it from, and it was really soothing for me at the time, I have to say. And the reason I'm sharing that is maybe many people are going through that you might sometimes feel an unease, you might feel an anxiety, you might feel this. And it's good to have some kind of a line to be able to tap into, especially people who've got maybe a decade more of experience than you in life. And they can kind of tell you, and it really does reassure you. And then you kind of feel, yeah, Actually, wow. But I'm just saying, maybe this resonates with some of you. You see, this world, we're here for a certain amount of time. And with it, it brings, each year will kind of unveil bundles and, and heaps of unexpected happiness. But with it will come its challenges. But TK, yaar. We'll face it as it comes, as the Arabic saying is, wara al-akmati ma wara. Whatever's there, we'll see it once we get to it. As one of our ustads used to say in madrasa, he used to say, if you haven't reached the toilet yet, no point taking your shalwar off right now. He used to say, you might as well wait till you get there. So cool. Let's, right, let me get to, right. Mr. That Gayam, you're doing it. Much love with the super chat. Wah, sharminda kar dete hain yaar. You embarrass me. World-renowned Muslim rapper Lupé Fiasco follows your Instagram and seems to be a fan of your work. Have you thought about having him on Mindtrap? Yes, I have been in touch with Lupé, and I did tell him that, look, let's do a Mindtrap, and he agreed. He said, yes, of course. Let me try and chase that up. To be honest, I didn't chase it up. There was a lot of unease going on in the States, and I could see from his Instagram posts he was quite busy battling a lot of things, and I thought, look, let him kind of just be. He's probably busy doing a lot of that, but I will chase it up. It will be great to get him on, and he is definitely world renowned. It will be an honor to have him on. Cool. There was another super chat. My Christian stepdad says he speaks with God. He told me other people he knows do too. I believe Islam brings us closer to God. What are your thoughts, Mufti? Is this possible? Isa Palama. Right. So, yes, you see, look, God is not the God just of Muslims or of Islam. I believe that anybody and everybody has that direct line to Allah, whether they call him God, whether they call him whatever. And this is a point I want to clarify as well, because sometimes atheists will say, and it's a very interesting statement they make. Dawkins has made it, and many others as well. They say that, look, there have been 3,000 gods, okay? And they say the difference between you and me is you are also an atheist in 2,999, but I just go that one God further. So they say there's no real difference. You're also an atheist in these thousands of gods, but I'm just going one God further. And that is our difference. And when they say it like that, it sounds like, well, okay. But this is actually a fallacy. You know why? Because God ultimately, to these people, generally speaking, has just been God. It's just one concept. However, they have personified God differently. So God is this invisible force that helps people. Now, some people have then interpreted certain aspects of him differently. Some people have said maybe he's set deputies and he's deputized other semi-gods to do things, or forces like the wind and this, and these are like deputies of the god or goddess. Now, whether they called him Brahma, or they called him Ishvar, or they called him, the god, or Baal, or they called him as Allah, or Khuda, or Yazdan, or these things, it is still ultimately, even when they said Ram, or they said these, they ultimately had the concept of God, but they then may have reflected it onto a particular symbol. So whether it was Osiris or, you know, whatever it was, the point is that God was always the concept of God, but it was just personified and reflected using certain symbolisms. At times things, like forces, fire, Agni, Varun, or at times people, like you would say Ram or Christ or so on, that this is how they personify God. So yes, we disagree with the way they try to capture the image of God. We disagree with the metaphors or the symbolism, but ultimately we do understand that it wasn't a separate God. Now, in some cases that might have happened, that some people may have actually believed in, in, let's say, multiple kind of gods, but ultimately most religions believed in an ultimate being from whom these other beings are derived. Just as in the monotheistic faith, the way we see angels and we see these things, they used these other demigods like that. So, so this argument of the atheists that, look, you also disbelieve in Zeus and in Thor and in Odin and in, all these other Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma and Krishna and Ram and Jesus and, sorry, not Jesus. But for these people, the atheists will say, you disbelieve in all these other gods. So we just go that one God further and say the God of Abraham. But that's not true, because the concept ultimately was the same. It was just God. So I think that was a point that really needs to be explained, because it's a misleading argument. I kind of like cleaning. I'm winning arguments in my head. Right, Mahmoud Abdul Baqi, you're doing it with the super chat. I just lost it. Let me go back up, see if I can find it. Nope, it's gone. Let me see if I can find it here. Nope, I can't see it. Right, let's go back to the question I was asked earlier on. The Khulafa al-Rashidun. What does this mean? This is a name given. Obviously, the Khulafa al-Rashidun didn't refer to themselves as Khulafa al-Rashidun, obviously. Rashidun means like the kind of rightly guided. We use it as in rightly guided, but the kind of, it means those of guidance. Rashid, okay? Those who had rushd. And rushd also kind of means, it can mean kind of insight or maturity. It can mean these things as well, but here it's being used more as a spiritual insight. That those khulafa of spiritual, rashad and rushd. Okay, now, right, so what are when the question was, did Muawiyah radiallahu anh think of Ali as Khulafa al-Rashidun? I don't think these terms were being used in Muawiyah's time, because he is from the same time as them. He's also from the Sahaba. So in their time, they wouldn't have said those were the Khulafa al-Rashidun. This would have been used more by people much after. So this term may have come about maybe in the Abbasid era. I'm assuming the early Abbasid era. So maybe the Atba'u Tabi'een, like Imam Abu Hanifa's time, Imam Malik's time, that kind of time, maybe they used these terms to refer to their pious predecessors. But it wouldn't have been used in Umar or Ali's time, radiallahu anhum. And as to Muawiyah, I think Muawiyah would have thought that Ali is spiritually or religiously more superior than him, if that if I can make that statement, I would have thought that. In fact, there's a statement from Muawiyah that is transmitted, I believe, in Sahih Muslim, where he says that I don't deny him being more virtuous than me. Because somebody asks Muawiyah, can you actually do you claim, look, Ali was one of the first people to become Muslim, he's the Prophet's cousin, he's the Prophet's son-in-law, he did this, he fought all the early battles of Islam. Do you really consider yourself, on religiously speaking, to be on the same platform? And he says in that narration, no, I don't. So I would accept that kind of an understanding. I don't think Muawiyah would have thought that, religiously speaking, him and Ali or him and Umar or him and Abu Bakr are on the same plateau. No, he would have recognized that he came much after. But from a political perspective, I think Muawiyah would have thought that he can run the show better than Ali. That's my assessment of what he would have thought. Okay, because that's pretty much what he says. Or he acts out anyway. And then it's a matter of debate that would have he. I mean, to be fair, I think Muawiyah radiallahu anh gets a lot of slack from people. I don't really agree with the slack. I do feel that obviously people will say, look, he did a lot of this, he did a lot of that, and I'm sure he did do, some of that. But I think it is true that from a governance perspective, a political perspective, he was incredibly skillful at his job, because during his rule there was never a successful rebellion ever, and he ruled for 20 years as a caliph and 20 years prior to that as a governor. So wherever he ruled, there was never an uprising against him. Now, there must be something about that leader that you got to admit that, for people to not, to have people pledge such loyalty to you, there must be something, kuch to hoga. Think about it. I mean, even Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh couldn't get that kind of loyalty. Not because he wasn't more pious, he was more pious. But then, you see, there's this debate or a discussion that, piety, it isn't like ruling people isn't about being a pious person. And I think this is one of the problems, that we assume that, the more pious you are, somehow you will be better at people management. But they don't go hand in hand necessarily. I mean, there may be a one-off case. I would, in fact, argue they are opposites. Or not opposite, but they're often qualities found in separate people. So we have this impression that by somebody who prays a lot and fasts a lot and gives a lot of charity, this person should be a leader. But you see, managing people is sometimes requires a lot of diplomacy. Like, you've got to kind of be mellow or be this, and sometimes you've got to word your words in certain ways to keep everybody kind of mellow, and that's not necessarily something that people, pious people necessarily would do. I mean, maybe so. And I feel one of the problems has been the rulership of Umar. You see, Umar's rulership was an exception, but it became the blueprint ideal. And I think everybody kind of yearned for it, because he was not diplomatic, Umar radiallahu anh, he wasn't diplomatic, but for some reason he pulled it off. And this was an exception, but people started to assume that should be the norm. So every pious person should be able to pull it off. But the norm is that pious people usually don't work very well with people, because their way of seeing things, because most people are not pious. So if the leader is not from amongst if he doesn't think the way most people think, it doesn't resonate usually. But it can still work on many occasions. But yeah, and this is one of the problems Plato found, you see, because Plato's his whole thing about the republic was about the ruler should be a philosopher, but then the problem is that the common people are not philosophers, so they can't resonate with him. And for so what happens is the ruler is often from the mob, because this is how Plato writes about it. But yeah, I hope that answers that question. Somebody asked, please bring in Dan Gibson. Sure, we can bring in Dan Gibson. I did like a lot of his work. I do have a video answering the Mecca question. I do feel in many ways that I've provided a somewhat of a sufficient answer. Even if I don't say so myself, which I do. The earlier Muslims didn't count Ali as the fourth rightly guided. I mean, there's a lot of questions about this today, isn't there? What's going on, people? Some people did problematize it, but look, not problematize it, sorry, like Imam Malik in one of the narrations says that I don't say. Yeah, look, Muslims generally do accept Sayyidina Ali was obviously, up there. He's one of the most amazing companions. There's no question about these things, okay? So, but the question is, how much do you praise someone? The way the Shia do it to excess. Like to them, Sayyidina Ali is something, he's like a Superman. He's not even human almost. And that's not true. I mean, he wasn't, like the way they make him out, but he was a great, unquestionably, a super Islamically a hero of Islam. He was a hero of Islam, but he wasn't like a demigod, or he wasn't like a prophet or something like that. But yeah, cool. Let's Asan, whoa, super chat there. Mufti Abu Layth, thank you for Soran. Osman says, thank you for making my faith stronger. My dua from Allah is that He blesses you and your family. Shukran, much love to you. Dearly appreciated. Right, so. And look, sometimes some people consider certain companions better than others. I've said in the past, look, to me, these things don't matter. If somebody, wants to consider Sayyidina Ali better, fine. There's nothing wrong. Like, I don't personally have a problem with these things. If somebody wants to consider Sayyidina Umar better, the problem is when you start, taking digs and criticizing, not just critiquing, criticizing and being rude, and that's a problem because these are religious symbols of Islam. Otherwise, look, who cares? Okay, in the books of Ahl Sunnah, they do write, oh, it's Abu Bakr first, then it's Umar, then it's Uthman, then it's Ali, but in all honesty, these are just books written by people. So if somebody did feel to them Sayyidina Ali was number one from all the companions, to me, that's not a problematic statement. To me, that's just a personal preference. To them, they are inspired by Sayyidina Ali. Great. I mean, what's wrong with that? If the problem is when it comes into this Sunni Shia kind of, oh, that person is bad then, and this person did this, and this person did this, and, Omar tried to burn the door of Ali, and this is so stupid. Because the dumb thing is that they say Umar radiallahu anh tried to burn the door of Fatima radiallahu anh. I mean, can you even imagine this would go on? Like, let's just be real. Firstly, the Shia, some of the Shia who make these claims, and not all the Shia make these claims, but some that do, they even acknowledge that in the sermons of Fatima radiallahu anha, she never makes mention of this. She never mentions this incident. Many of the Shia books, their main usul books that they rely on, don't even mention this incident of the burning of the door. the other thing is this then incredibly um, shows Ali in a disfavorable light. That Ali is meant to be this, this lion of a man, and he can't even defend his own door from being burnt down. Like what it makes him like such a weak character. And and let's not forget, in his house were the Hashemiyin. Bani Hashim were there. I believe they claim Zubair was there. And there's no way that these people would just sit there, and there's no way that the other companions would do something. I mean, just come on, man. Just be real. Like, just use your own common sense. Would somebody do something like this? So just spreading, riling up sentiments by trying to say, oh, this is what they did and this is. I mean, I accept other arguments. I do accept that, maybe that Sayyidina Ali was not, was sidelined. I don't think he was sidelined intentionally, but I think in the, in the huff and puff of things that he wasn't, he was sidelined in the whole rush hour of events. They didn't really, and there was this fear that they might be, before this gets out of hand, let's get a leader. That does happen, and I accept that kind of stuff. But to overdo it, that they made Fatima miscarry a baby, and made this happen and made that happen. I mean, where is all of this? And why does Ali, when he becomes a ruler, never mention this? And even, they go on about, oh my God, the land of Fadak and the land of Fadak. But yet when Ali became a ruler, never ever mentions it. Not even once does he try to rectify. And they say, oh, because he had bigger things to worry about. Well, in that case, if there's bigger things, then you need to stop going on about this, because by admission, this is not that much of a big thing. So I say, look, whatever's happened has happened. Let's move forward, right? Enough of these disputes and arguments, and we can never resolve these issues. Yeah, so even Shia scholars do oppose that, and I believe that the scholars of, from the Shia, I feel that the Mahdi Institute is an amazing voice that speaks on behalf of the Shia. Very, they speak the voice of reason, speak very calmly, and they have problematized this. And if somebody is a Shia and they want to learn from other Shia, they don't want to become Sunni, let's say, I would advise get in touch with the Al Mahdi Institute. There is Sheikh Arif. There are other imams there as well. There's Dr. Wahid. I mean, these people, I would say, reach out to these people, honestly. Incredible people. There are Shia, but there are, I've never, from what I've known of them, I've never seen them ever speaking about splitting up the Ummah. I've only heard them speak about having unity and love and respect. And so great people. I would definitely advocate their institute for Shia that want to learn only from Shia sources. Then these are your people. Cool. Let's move on. All right, what is going on? I just had a question. Was Christianity a true religion up until the exact point when Muhammad received his first revelation from God, or was it corrupted before then? See, it's not about Christianity being corrupted. I believe that, look, there were many prophets, and people, even in between prophets, they had this intuition to God. And in Arabia, it was often referred to as the Sabi'in. The Sabi'ah were these people that had an inclination to just monotheism and to God. And there was people like Qus ibn Sa'ida and other people who were preaching this kind of stuff, this monotheism, before the Prophet ﷺ. So, and Jesus was never sent to the Arabs. So Jesus was sent to the Israelites. So just to be, we don't believe that one prophet was sent. There may have been multiple prophets. We don't know. Allah says that there were many prophets. Lam naqsusum alik. We did not tell you about them. Right, so Dervish says a lot of Shia scholars have a better approach to the common person than lots of Salafis. Possibly. I mean, I look, I'm not. I just feel that the problem is the extreme end. What's in the middle? Alhamdulillah. Anybody who is speaking about humanity, more power to you. Okay. Right. Somebody said watch Naqshwani's video. I'm not. You see, the thing is, I have watched one or two of Ammar Naqshwani's videos. I don't know where he exactly lies in the. You see, because I get the impression he's not from the moderate kind of Shia, but then I could be wrong. Maybe he is, because I have seen 1-2 of his clips where he's not he's not being very nice and that towards the Sunnis, and being quite disrespectful and rude, and so my impression is he's like from the Salafi version of the Shia, but I could be, maybe he's changed over the day and age. So right, let's take a look at some Facebook questions, and I know quite a few people. Yeah, somebody said Naqshwani is poison. Okay, yeah, possibly. So I've only watched a few of his clips. The few that I have watched, one has been okay. He was explaining something about the Adalatul Sahaba, and he was giving an academic presentation, which was decent. But the other clips of his that I've seen, where he's insulting Umar and he's doing, taking digs at Aisha and doing stuff like. So I don't know, but then some people have said, "Oh, these were old videos of his, and he's kind of backtracked now." But I don't know. So I don't want to really. I can't promote him, because from what I've seen of him, he's not. Mufti, what is your karamat, as you are a wali? What is this? Is what people after me will say, and kana min karamatihi radiyallahu an. As in the books of the Sufiya, the ones the Salafis have released dissing them, they say, and from his karama is that he would give the khutbah naked. I'm not making this up, honestly. They're obviously taking a dig at the book of the Tabaqatus Sufiya, whatever it is, or the awliya, that they say, look in here, look at the stories in this. So from his karamat, I wonder what mine could be, huh? All right, people, it is getting a bit late, and there are some TV series waiting for me to watch. Right, I did want to. Am I missing anything out? I did want. Right. Yeah, I've just gone on talking and talking today. Right, I've come across these clips.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Right. This is a person, some religious guy, making a video on masturbation.
Forgive me for everything I've done in the past, when everything was going so fast, and now I just can't go on.
MashaAllah, I'm praying, reciting.
For everything I've done in the life, for everything I've done in the
Allah. But then I get the urge. You naughty.
A lot of us have this bad habit, and for those who wants to know how to stop it, just think about next time you want to masturbate. Would you do it in front of your father? Would you do it in front of your mother? If you can't do it in front of your parents, how can you do it in front of Allah Azza wa Jal? Think about it next time. And we might go back to it again. But don't forget, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is Ar-Rahim. He is the most merciful.
That part. Okay, so the first part, as we saw there, was
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
right. So the first part was there's another part as well from, I don't know who this person is, but this holy brother, he's got a video going around. It was about masturbation. So there you are, praying your salah, mashallah, the nasheed's playing in the background. I don't know any nasheeds to sing, right? So there you are, holy person reciting the Quran. You're reciting the Quran, subhanallah, subhanallah, everything, doing dhikr, ar-Rahman. And then you're going into the bathroom. And you come out. Mujhe ye haath de de Thakur. You come out and the cure to this is, remember, next time when you're feeling the urge to masturbate, think of your dad. And think of your mum. No, you're teasing me. Yeah, what's this sick guy on about? Why would you want to think about your dad and mum whilst you get the urge? And then he's like, think about it. Well, can you do it in front of them? I mean, is that what you really want? How do you... Yeah. What kind of next level bagharti is this? Like, would you do it in front of your mom and dad? Well, yeah, there's many things I won't do in front of my mom and dad. What kind of a is that? So anyway, that was the first one. Then the holy brother keeps on giving. So here's the next.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my beloved brothers and sisters.
Wa alaikum
be youngsters watching this, but this is an education video, inshallah. So learn about your deen, it is no problem. And to learn about this stuff, it is actually obligatory upon you. With this being said, having intimacy with the wife, sexual intercourse in the anus, it is absolutely haram. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that Allah will not even look at a man who has sexual intercourse with his wife in the anus. Allah will be angry with you, in other words. And
I mean, look, yaar, I can understand the person that it's happening to being angry with you. But why is Allah being angry with you? Yeah, why is Allah getting angry? यार यहाँ पे connection समझ में नहीं आ रहा है यार. I can't understand. I can understand the other person saying, यार, I'm angry. चलो ठीक है. فهمت. Entiendo. But why is God getting angry? Yeah, this is the problem with guilt tripping people. Okay, so first of all, look, I'm not saying you need to go practice this special. But look, in all honesty, there isn't a single Sahih Hadith to say it's haram. There's no such thing like in the Quran or Sunnah. And I've got a video explaining that. In fact, if you watch my reply to Abu Ibrahim, The Exorcist, I explain it in there. I go through the books and demonstrate that there's no such thing. And I go through Shawkani's commentary and other things. And I get if you want to warn people against, but I find, look, this is an unhealthy obsession. You know, like, I need to save the world. You know, I need to save this ummah, yaar. The ummah is suffering. I agree, there's coronavirus, there's lockdowns, businesses have been shut down, people are out of work, there's domestic violence, there's a lot of depression going on. There's a lot of, people feel anxiety. They're stuck at home. What the ummah needs what is the key feature that I can save of this ummah? I know, I'll save the anus. Abe chache, what made you think that the anus of the ummah is in danger? Yaar, control, yaar, control. This one, not too much, too much. So, listen, I get the fact you want to impart beautiful advice, but this one not beautiful, this one, no. This one too beautiful, not beautiful. This one, you give the beautiful advice, beautiful. So this is the thing. So please stop trying to guilt trip people. Even Sheikh Yasir Qadi, who I'll come to in a moment, has backtracked and done a U-turn, and Zakir Naik have done a U-turn on masturbation, and many of the Salafis. Look, I get it if you don't do it. I'm not saying do these things. I'm not saying these things are good or bad or whatever, but don't guilt trip, make people feel just more bad about themselves with all this nasheed music and all this. Yeah. Would you do it in front of your mum? Huh? Abe yaar, what kind of a besharam question is that? What would I do in front of my mum? What kind of a sicko do you take me to be? This reminds me, there was the story once. Imam Malik's teacher, he was he was going with his nephew, Abu Zinad, his name was, going with his nephew, and his nephew asks him this question. He says, oh, tell me, he's a great scholar of Medina. He says, are we allowed to do certain intimacy things? And he says to him, look, listen, when you're on your own, behind closed doors, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Just green light, green light, green light. So he says to him, he says, behind closed doors, it's not whatever you want. And the nephew isn't quite content. Yeah. Focus, focus. So the nephew isn't quite content. The nephew says, no, but can we make erotic sounds? Can we do this? Can we do that? And he says, look, yaar, beta, oh, beta ji, oh, babu ji. He says, beta, control. He said, don't worry about it, man. So he's still not content. So he says to his uncle, he says, look, tell me, he says, وَهَلْ تَفْعَلُهُ أَنْتَ? He says, do you do it? Ab bolo. Talk to me, diga me. He says, do you do it? So this is now one of the great scholars of Medina, the teacher of Imam Malik. He turns around and he says to him, he says, bete, putar. He says, ya ibn al-akh, لو رأيت عمك وهو يجامع لظننت أنه لا يؤمن بالله العظيم. He said, if you saw your uncle when he's in action in the room, he said, you would think, man, this guy doesn't even believe in God. Wah! Yaar, toba, wah, Prabhu, Guru. Now talk about heightening your curiosity. They're thinking, yaar, what was this guy up to? So, look, the point is that it doesn't mean, these things don't mean that just because you can't do them in front of your mum and dad, they are haram. Obviously, we have shame. We're not going to do certain things in front of our mum and dad. And we're not going to think about our mum and dad at certain times. Behave, you sicko, you sicko. So, people, now let's, before we close off for the day, there was I wanted to speak about our beloved. Right, so that is from the beloveds. It is none other than No, it's not our Asrar Saab. We've spoken last week about Asrar, and it's what is going on? No. It's not this. It's not Gangu Teli. But Gangu Teli has also brought this to our attention. I want to speak about our beloved, none other
Dajjal with a small d.
than Sheikh Yasir
Or we
Qadi.
can
You see, I genuinely don't understand, and I've had a few people message me and ask me as well. They've said, look, what is the story with Sheikh Yasir Qadi? And I genuinely don't get it. They've said that why is he making certain comments? Is he doing them on purpose? Is he doing them by accident? Is he giving material to Islamophobes? So, for example, he began with the Ya'juj, Ma'juj, zombies, TK, even though he's calling me a deviant at the time. But then, this thing like the Quran, such a, which he, I don't believe he was that stupid, and I believe he knew what he's doing. But then there's this clip on the wife of the Prophet, Zainab. Now, I genuinely don't get what's going on here. He seems to be saying that this this concept, which a lot of Islamophobes like to throw around, that the Prophet lusted after another man's wife, which was his adopted son, Zayd. So they say, that the Prophet lusted after Zainab bint Jahsh. And I've got a whole video. Please do watch that video. It's on YouTube. It's called A Reply to Atheist Claims the Prophet Lusted Over Another Man's Wife. And you can see there, it's been up for about 10 months now, and it's quite a detailed video, about 44 minutes there, where I explain that this is ridiculous. It makes no sense. This woman, Zainab bint Jahsh radiallahu anha, she was related to the Prophet. The Prophet had grown up with her. He knew her all. This thing about, oh my God, he one day saw her here and became like, wow. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. In fact, the Prophet is the one who invites that proposal. He sets up for Zayd to marry Zainab. Now, if you do want a detailed breakdown, you can watch it. But what's happened is Sheikh Yasir Qadi has now made a clip saying, well, this concept that the Prophet saw her and felt something for her is a genuine narrative of Islam. And our other beloved has actually made a video, and to be fair, on this point, I agree with Gangu Teli Saab. Gangu Teli, who's actually made... Gangu Teli Saab has made a video where he has also put together about Yasir Qadi making these statements, which is a bit longer. I've just got a few minutes to share with you here, but he's got a lengthier piece with David Wood speaking and other people as well and stuff like that. But I genuinely don't get what's going on with Yasir Qadi. Let's just have a listen.
Let's finally move on to Sheikh Dr. Yasir Qadi.
Ibn Sa'ad says, and he has an isnad, by the way, so it's not as if he's narrating, it goes back to the Tabi'un. The Prophet ﷺ went to visit Zayd, but Zayd was not home. And Zainab came to answer his knock, and this was before hijab had been revealed. This is a key point here. Hijab has not come down yet. The verse to cover your hair has not come down. So she comes rushing, and the Prophet ﷺ saw her and then averted his gaze. So the very fact that he's turning away indicates something. And he started saying things, and Zainab just caught phrases. Subhanallah al-Azim, Subhana.
You see, it's not the turning away, but it's these kind of wordings, and you got to remember that full narration that he's referring to.
He simply turned around and walked away.
Shows a kind of becoming infatuated.
Will demonstrate as well a reality that I have hinted at before, and By now we are, alhamdulillah, those that have been with me from the beginning. So now you know my style and the importance that I give to academic integrity. I don't sugarcoat, I don't paint a rosy picture. I need to tell you the facts, because if you don't hear them from me and you hear them from somebody else, then it's going to cause problems.
So
Ibn Ishaq, believe it or not, does not mention the entire incident, which is...
So it's showing that Ibn Ishaq doesn't have it. Not that Ibn Ishaq
is about this,
isn't problematic, but he doesn't.
It's not there. And some have criticized him for not mentioning anything about the details of Zainab's story. Ibn Sa'ad, who is one of the earliest commentators of Sirah, Mu'arrikhin...
See, the problem is that the riwayat in there are
Ibn
weak
Sa'ad mentions
and
the full
unacceptable.
details.
This is the problem.
I'll call this
which he's not commenting
the original prototype version, or call it version A, if you like. And this is the detailed
So he calls
version
this the
that
prototype.
is found in pretty much every book of Sirah of early Islam, and pretty much every book of Hadith that mentions this story. And I'm going to call this version A. And it is the version that is found in the vast majority, dare I say, all of the earliest
this is the
books
version.
of Sirah and
That's
Hadith
not true, by the way. What he's saying factually isn't true.
Hadith and tafsir. Let me give you, for example,
and this is
the earliest tafsirs written, tafsir of Abdul Razzaq,
from him refuting this same point 10 years ago.
Over 10. The tafsir of Ibn Kathir, the earliest seerah books written, seerah of Ibn Ishaq, the earliest hadith books written, the hadith of the Sahih of Imam Bukhari. All of these books give a radically different story. And it's very clear to me that this was the normative understanding of early
See, he says
Islam.
this was the normative.
There are many early tafsirs. Of them is Muqatil ibn Sulaiman, died 150 Hijrah. And he has this narrative as well. Another question arises, where does this love story exist? Response,
where does this love story?
Again, we're getting a little bit academic here, but it exists in a tafsir called Tafsir Muqatil ibn Sulaiman. And Muqatil ibn Sulaiman, by unanimous consensus, is not a scholar. He's not a historian.
To be fair, I disagree with him on this point. I would say he was a scholar, but I think he's being a bit raw
he's
too.
He's a tabloid paper. He's not the New York Times. Literally, he's a tabloid paper. So the Orientalists, imagine, and I
accept his tafsir is
when
weird
I was defending the story
at times.
In a certain context. I said, imagine walking into a bookstore, walking into a supermarket, and ignoring the New York Times, ignoring, the Washington Post, ignoring every single reputable, the Times Magazine, Newsweek, and getting your news from the Daily Inquirer, for example. This is the equivalent of what these people are doing. They ignore every single authentic, legitimate book, and they go to the most obscure references. How many of you have even heard of Tafsir Muqatil ibn Sulaiman? Yes, it exists. It's not a fabrication. Meaning the book is not a fabrication. What's inside it might be. But the book itself, it exists. How many of you are aware of it? Nobody. But these guys hunt down these stories, extract them, and popularize. I think that we learn, and I'll lay the beans just spill the beans very clearly. What we see here, and I find it problematic, very clearly I find it problematic. What we see is that
this is his recent
some incidents, as Islamic history evolved, the story was sanitized and made easier and more palatable for the masses.
So he's trying to say they removed the dodgy part. Now, this thing was done by, as you can see, the transformation was done by Ganguteli, but
the story was sanitized and made easier and more palatable for the masses to deal with.
Right. So what you saw basically is Yasir Qadi Saab, and the reason why I thought it's important to show the old clip and the new clips to you is that it's not a matter of information, because he knows the answers to these questions. He's already answered them over a decade ago. So his recent position, and this is from this year just gone, 2020, is to say that, look, this kind of love story, so to speak, may have some validity, and he feels that what's happened is it was the standard version, but later Muslims started to wash it clean and sanitize it and remove parts and redact it. But the fact of the matter is that it was not the case. I mean, that was not the case. In fact, many of the major early muhaddithin do not transmit it. Malik doesn't transmit it. The other people, Bukhari, he mentions, doesn't transmit. And what they do transmit is absolutely different. The other books of hadith. Now, he mentions, look, it is in Tafsir Ibn Muqatil. Now, fair enough. He says that that's not even, he wasn't even a scholar. I would say, look, he was a scholar. Imam Shafi'i does quote him as well, but they do see him having certain strange views. And fine, I'm not saying that nobody hadn't transmitted this source, but to say this was the normative transmission, that everybody thought, yes, that the Prophet went and he somehow, found Zainab to be irresistibly beautiful, that he just, in his heart, he coveted that, oh, I wish I could marry her. This is absurd. Because look, just put this incident aside. The Prophet grew up with Zainab. They both grew up in Makkah. They grew up together. He knew her. She was younger than the Prophet, but she wasn't, at that time, she would have been, I think when she married the Prophet, she would have been in her late 30s, I think. So this isn't somebody that the Prophet didn't know. He knew her. She had grown up in front of him. She was a relative of the Prophet. She was from his clan. There was long before they even migrated to Medina. The Prophet knew her. He knew her whole family. They were very close. Like I mentioned, I go through the relation, the aunt, and so on in my video. Do watch it. But this thought that this woman who the Prophet ﷺ knew, she's related to him, he grows up, she accepts the da'wah amongst many others, and even when the Prophet moves to Medina, she migrates and he marries her. He arranges for her to marry Zayd. That somehow, someday, the Prophet becomes obsessed with her beauty is ridiculous. I mean, if the Prophet was, let's just say that she was so beautiful that she was irresistible, and I'm not saying she wasn't beautiful, but the truth is that she wasn't known like, I'm sure she was very pretty, but there weren't these kind of rumors that she was the most beautiful woman in that state or in that city, or even from the wives of the Prophet. That people did speak about other wives like Juwayriya and so on being like so incredibly beautiful, and that's not to detract from her. I'm just saying, if this was the case, the Prophet could have easily proposed to her and she would have accepted. There's no, why this makes zero sense, like just from a rational perspective, just to think about it. And I am genuinely surprised by what, I don't know, somebody asked me that, Mufti, what do you make of Yasir Qadi? Why is he doing this stuff in public? Like, he knows by him doing this, all it does is it gives more to Islamophobes that then confuse the masses. Like now, he did this holes in the narrative. Yeah, akhi, yeah, we've got holes in the narrative. And now there's this, my YouTube algorithms every day show me a video on the holes on the narrative. Because of, itna acha khasa hole kiye hain. He's done such a big hole to this thing. And now this thing, you've got other people jumping on this, some ex-Muslims, some Christian fanatics, basically certain Islamophobes who say, look, even your own scholars, Yasir Qadi, the renowned Yasir Qadi, is admitting these things and saying this about your Prophet. And what I find embarrassing, not embarrassing, what I find shocking. Yeah, okay, this is, somebody could say, Mufti, look, what's your problem? He's just being academically, he's having academic integrity. He can have a radical opinion. He can be different to his mashayikh, and he can be, and I'll say, fine, I'm somebody that's always having, odd opinions and out of the box opinions. But tell me, when it comes to the age of Aisha, you can't accept those narrations that we've explained. You can't accept the problems there. With that narrative, you can't, where's the academic integrity there? Just because your mashayikh have said no, you're fine with it. You're not prepared to challenge it. Just because the scholars from Saudi and these scholars don't allow you to challenge that narrative. And the narratives you do dare challenge are ridiculous ones, like this. Like, oh, yeah, maybe the Prophet was like, beguiled by the beauty of Zayd's wife. Like, what the hell? Where is this even coming from? I don't even. So I am genuinely bewildered by what Yasir. I don't know. Is this just out of clumsiness? He's just not thinking it, or is this too well thought through? I mean, yaar, ye game kya ho rahi hai? Is this a little D or a big D? This is the
Dajjal with a small D.
Small D. This is the
Or
problem.
we can say mini Dajjals, no
Mini
problem.
Dajjal. Is this the?
But there is one Dajjal with a big D, okay?
Rhythm correct. Rhythm correct. Cola very deep. So this, I don't know. I just want to, somebody had asked me. I thought I'd share my thoughts on it. If you do want to watch the full, my reply to it, it is on YouTube. Do check it out. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to my channels, then abe salo. What on earth are you waiting for? Of course, right? Get on to it, people. Somebody, and I had asked about my DNA thing. I did do a DNA breakdown. I think it's been about 2 years now. I will actually get it and share it on, if I can remember to, I'll do it next week. But cool, people. Like, subscribe, spread the love, people. Spread the love. Spread the love. The love. Spread the love. Well, this is 2021, So spread it like wildfire. I see that the count is rising. It's already 21, I think 21 point something subscribers, subscribers. Come on, spread it, people. Oh, yaar, no, yaar. The day I figure this damn thing out, this is what I was supposed to do. This is going out to you guys, all of you. People, take very good care of yourselves. Much love. And Miss Patreoncitos special going out to all of you. And if you have, there's been 1-2 of you I've already caught up with since my COVID recovery. The rest of you will be catching up this week with our private sessions. Take very good care of yourselves, people. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, people.